President Trump surrenders to authorities in Atlanta. What happens next, and what clues should we watch out for as the case continues? Alan Dershowitz joins us live with reaction.
Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis is feeling the heat this morning over her indictment of President Trump. Ahead, White House Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan has launched an investigation into Willis.
Former Georgia Congressman Bob Barr was one of the House managers during the Clinton impeachment trial. He is here with his assessment of the case against President Trump.
Unprecedented times in these United States, from natural disasters to the arrest of the president. With the weekend approaching, how faith will sustain you in the most trying of circumstances.
And Jennifer Aniston has had enough of cancel culture, and she's not afraid to say it. Those stories and so much more as American Sunrise starts right now.
We've got your back as you start your day.
Articulating what the majority of Americans feel today, and I really appreciate that you do.
Y'all tell the truth.
You guys are our voice.
We watch every morning while getting ready for work.
Good morning, Patriot Warriors. I'm Dr. Gina.
And I'm Miranda Khan, and we are coming to you live here in West Palm Beach. Boy, what a week it has been. Still reeling after the breaking news last night with that indictment, Trump turning himself in Fulton County, Georgia. Let's bring in David Brody in D.C. for the big story of the day.
Miranda, Gina, it's more than just heartbreaking what we're seeing. It's downright evil. The mugshot heard all around the world. It is not just Donald Trump's face that you see right there on your screen. That is the face of tens of millions of Americans right now that are more than angry, that are ready to do something and are frustrated. And all I need to say is one date, January 20th, 2025. That day is coming, and we're going to get more on all of that as we continue in this next 2 hours. But first, the headlines with Terrance Bates in Denver. Terrance.
Good morning, everyone. A lot to talk about. President Trump, of course, reacting to his arrest in Fulton County, Georgia this morning. Before going in front of the cameras, the 45th president taking to social media, writing in part, arrested by a radical left low-life district attorney, Fani Willis, for a perfect phone call and having the audacity to challenge a rigged and stolen election. The evidence is irrefutable, he writes. President Trump, along with at least 12 of his co-defendants, have now turned themselves into authorities in Georgia. The deadline for everyone to surrender is noon today. The group is charged under Georgia's RICO, a racketeering law, which is usually used for organized crime. The 19 defendants are charged with trying to overturn Georgia's 2020 election results.
What has taken place here is a travesty of justice. We did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. And everybody knows it. I've never had such support. And that goes with the other ones, too. What they're doing is election interference. They're trying to interfere with an election. There's never been anything like it in our country before. This is their way of campaigning. And this is one instance, but you have three other instances. It's election interference.
President Trump's White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, also turned himself in on Thursday and was released on a $100,000 bond. There is new reporting out this morning claiming the entire Trump investigation by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis is based on a lie from an aide to Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. The Gateway pundit saying Jordan Fuchs gave the Washington Post a bogus account of President Trump's phone call with Raffensperger and then deleted the secret recording of that call. It was reportedly found in her trash folder later, though. You probably remember the Washington Post printed a retraction to its story, writing in part, Trump did not tell the investigator to find the fraud or say that she would be a national hero if she did so. Instead, Trump urged the investigator to scrutinize ballots in Fulton County, Georgia, asserting that she would find dishonesty there. He also told her that she had the most important job in the country right now. While President Trump was being arrested, President Biden was talking with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky about sending more of your tax money to the war zone. According to the post on X, he called to wish Zelensky and the Ukrainian people a happy Independence Day. While Biden's official account never mentioned President Trump by name, the last line of this post may be seen as a bit of a shot at the 45th president. Biden writes, "May today be a reminder that the forces of darkness and dominion will never extinguish the flame of liberty that lives in the heart of free people everywhere." We'll have more headlines coming your way here in just a little bit, but now let's get back to a big interview. Gina, Miranda, David, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
We're going to get to that interview in just a moment,
Yes.
but I also want to make sure that we mention the other big story, and again, we're going to talk more about that. President Trump posting for the first time since January 6th, I believe, to X, formerly known as Twitter.
That's right.
There's his mugshot.
Yeah, and we don't know if this is a one-off or if this is something that he'll keep up with and continue to post there. We're just not sure. But before we go any further, let's get to today's Bible verse. This is 1 Corinthians 3, verse 16. And it says this, "Do you not know that you are the temple of God and that the Holy Spirit of God dwells in you?" Love this, especially right now, as we need to all be, I think, keenly aware and in touch with the Holy Spirit in each of us, because it's easy to get down, it's easy to get angry, it's easy to get dark, but that's not the Spirit. And the Spirit is in each of us. So later on in the show, Father Frank Pavone will join us with a message of hope, because there is a lot of bad news out there that we will have to report these days. Natural disasters, presidents arrested, economic turmoil, all the rest of it. I'm looking forward to talking to Father Pavone about how to keep that Holy Spirit shining through all of it a little bit later on in the show.
Looking forward to that. Well, it was a moment that won't soon be forgotten in American history. President Trump, again, turning himself in to be arrested in Atlanta. Wow. Look at that. That is the mugshot.
Yeah.
Now it's a question of what happens, though, right? In the courtroom, right, David?
Well, that's right. And let me just say, before we bring in Alan Dershowitz, I want to say one quick thing, and that is you better be careful. The left and the Democrats better be careful, because two can play at this game. And Harry Reid and the Democrats found that out, because in 2013, let's go back 10 years, in 2013, Harry Reid and the Democrats changed the way the game was played. They invoked the nuclear option on judicial nominees at the lower court level. And then at that point, what happened? The Republicans said, you better be careful. We'll do it at the Supreme Court level. And that's exactly what happened. And of course, we know what happened since then. We've got 3 conservative Supreme Court justices, Donald Trump actually appointed. Let's bring in a Harvard law professor, a law scholar, of course, Alan Dershowitz, who is just really an icon in American history. And of course, author of the new book called Get Trump. The threat to civil liberties, due process, and our constitutional rule of law. Alan, thanks for being here. I have to ask you, first off, that mugshot, your reaction.
Well, first, I want to start with a biblical verse. In the book of Deuteronomy, God commands judges and prosecutors, lo takir panim, do not recognize faces. That's the first rule. Do justice blindly. Don't recognize the faces of the people in front of you. Yes. And that's precisely what's going on today. Special injustice, rush to injustice for Donald Trump. Now, look, the mugshot is going to be the best-selling mugshot in history. I have a room in my house which has the wall of crime. I have Frank Sinatra's mugshot. I have the mugshot of previous clients, wanted posters. I'm now going to post the mugshot of Donald Trump alongside of Frank Sinatra. It's outrageous that a mugshot was taken. Mugshots are there to prevent people from escaping and hiding their identity. He's the most photographed man in the country today. That mugshot was just done for political purposes, and now Trump is turning it to his advantage. He's selling mugs of mugs, coffee mugs, mugshots. I knew that would happen. I predicted it, and it's come to be. This has become such a highly politicized case. The goal of the prosecution is to get a conviction quickly before the election, knowing that it might very well be reversed on appeal, but that would happen after the election. She has lied. The prosecutor has lied to her constituents, the American public, in the court by saying she was going to have this case tried within 6 months. Now she wants it tried within 2 months. Never in the history of law has a case as complicated as this, with so many defendants, so many lawyers, so many charges, so many documents been tried in so short a period of time. So my prediction is this case is not going to get tried on her schedule, because her schedule is a rush to injustice and a politicization and a weaponization of the criminal justice system.
Alan, I have to ask you, you've described yourself as a Democrat, a liberal.
That's
We've
right.
talked to you for years. How has this changed you personally when it comes to looking at law? Again, you've taught future lawyers. You've described yourself as a liberal. Now you've seen Democrats go after you, shun you. Has this changed you?
Well, it's made me consistent with my views. I've never been a party person. I could vote for a Republican if the Republican candidate is better. I support many of the issues on the Democratic platform over the Republican platform, but I'll pick candidates based on the quality of the candidates. Yeah, it's changed. The Democratic Party I knew and loved when Franklin Delano Roosevelt was president and the Kennedys were the central figures in America is different today. And it's not so much Joe Biden. It's the woke elements of the Democratic Party, the progressives.
Right.
I am a liberal, and a liberal is a tolerant person who wants to hear arguments on all sides. And the woke part of the Democratic Party is against free speech, against due process, against the rule of law. They just want it the way they want it. And now, the New York Times, the wokest of newspapers now, had a headline the other day, "To improve democracy, get rid of elections." Get rid of elections. I mean, that really is the goal today.
Wow.
If an election will result in Donald Trump being president, well, let's get rid of elections. Let's get rid of the rule of law. These radicals will do anything to get Trump. And we are the losers because we want to maintain the rule of law.
Alan, with that in mind, just one quick follow-up question. Would you vote for Donald Trump today?
Not today. No, I don't support his position on a choice, on gay marriage, on climate control, on reasonable gun control. But, I have a constitutional right to vote against Donald Trump for the third time. You have a constitutional right to vote for him for the third time. And that right shouldn't be taken away from either of us. The people should decide who's elected the next president, not the district attorney of Fulton County, not the district attorney of Manhattan, and not a prosecutor in Washington and Florida. We have a right to vote. And, my vote will be influenced by a range of issues. I'll make up my final mind the day before Election Day, and I'll cast the vote for the person I think would be best for America, for world, for values that I care deeply about. But I separate out my politics from my. So
you wouldn't vote for him, but you would be willing to defend him. It sounds like, and are willing to defend him publicly. But it sounds like also in court. We need some good news, though, Alan. A lot of us are worried this could be the beginning of the end of America, with an out of control bureaucracy targeting a president, someone's political enemy. But do you believe President Trump can beat all of this?
Well, I think he can beat it ultimately. The question is timing. What the prosecutors are trying to do is get him convicted quickly in biased jury pools. After all, the District of Columbia, 95% anti-Trump, New York, 85% anti-Trump, Fulton County, 75% anti-Trump. They're trying to get quick trials in jurisdictions that are biased against Trump, knowing that there may very well be reversals of those convictions. But, I think we ought not to confuse politics with law. Every American, whether you're liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican, ought to be opposed to this rush to injustice, to distorting the Constitution, to trying to use the 14th Amendment to disqualify Trump from running for office. It doesn't matter what your political party is. Every American who loves the Constitution ought to be opposed to these attempts by the hard left and by woke Democrats to try to influence the election through improper means.
Alan Dershowitz, a pleasure and an honor to have you here on American Sunrise. Thanks so very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right. We've got a lot more on American Sunrise. Boy, there was a lot to think about during that interview for sure. We'll pontificate, if you will, the next couple hours. Coming up, we've got Bob Barr, the man that was part of the House impeachment against Bill Clinton. Bob Barr will be here on American Sunrise, so stick around for that.
But If you ever wondered why our schools have become so left-wing, you don't need to look any further than the teachers' unions that push their own agenda. Forget the need for school supplies. Money is being used to promote their own political agendas. This is a story that will infuriate you, and it's coming up next right here on American Sunrise.
Welcome back, everybody. Great look at Louisville, Kentucky. Right there.
Beautiful state.
Really beautiful state.
Right?
Love me some horses and some bluegrass.
Yes.
It is good to have you guys with us. I hope you enjoyed that Dershowitz interview. Want to bring David back in if we can. And just, Miranda, I thought your question was so amazing because I really loved how you asked him, could you vote for Trump? And I even more loved his answer.
I know.
Is no, I couldn't, but that has nothing to do with what's right and wrong. That just proves what we've always said on this show and on all of our own shows and whatever, that this is not a partisan issue. This should be something that every American should be appalled by, right, David?
Well, 100%, Gina and Miranda. It was a great question, actually a myriad of great questions by both of you. And what was interesting in the response that it elicited from Alan Dershowitz, he talked about the woke left, from where he was at one point in his life to where the party is today is a total disconnect. And what that represents is exactly what blue collar and heartland Democrats are thinking about right now. In other words, the Democratic Party has left them. And Alan Dershowitz represented that today on American Sunrise. I mean, and this is what Donald Trump tapped into. And this is where the country is headed. Now, Rachel Maddow and the elites don't like to talk about it, but it's the truth. The truth is that the Democrats and the left in this country are catering to the suburban elites and a lot of the kind of ethnic minorities and the LGBT community and all of that. But they're missing out on the blue collar Rust Belt voter that Alan Dershowitz remembers that the left used to be. The left is much different today than it used to be back in the day.
And one of the things that I think we heard from Mr. Dershowitz is basically this idea that society begins to fall when right goes to the left. And when I say right, what is right kind of has gone to the wayside. And when political groups take their own self-interest and put it above what is legal and what is right.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the moral compass is way off. And I was telling Gina, going to your point, David, you know, my grandmother was a Democrat, you know, my mother is a Democrat, your dad is a Democrat. But I've noticed a definite shift, going to your point, and those people now that used to be Democrats are resonating with Trump. Those blue collar. Think about it. Here's a billionaire that's resonating more with blue collar, average everyday Americans, Joe Sixpack, as you put it. And I don't think my grandmother would vote for Democrats. I just don't.
And up next on American Sunrise, a historic and sad day in America as a president of the United States, many believe the rightful president even today, surrenders to authorities in Atlanta in a case many say is just a political witch hunt. Former Georgia congressman and former federal prosecutor Bob Barr oversaw the Clinton impeachment. He's here with his take for what's going on in Georgia.
This news break is brought to you by AMAC, Association of Mature American Citizens.
Welcome back. Hope your Friday morning is off to a good start. Beautiful shot.
Friday.
It is. We finally made it. Woo, what a long week it has been. A lot of news going on. Don't want to waste any time because we want to make sure we've got you covered before you head out the door for work. So let's go quickly now to Terrance. He's been watching the breaking news all morning, and these headlines again sponsored by AMAC.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
There is new research out this morning suggesting that most Americans who think that they're ready to retire aren't. The Motley Fool is offering up 3 of the best ways to invest for retirement. Stop what you're doing right now, folks, for just 1 minute and listen up. Here's the list. First up, invest regularly and effectively. There's just no perfect sum to invest at any particular time. Depending on your circumstances, the amount that you can save and invest will likely change over time. Secondly, invest using tax-advantaged accounts like IRAs or 401ks. It's even more beneficial if your employer matches your 401k contributions to any degree. Set a goal of contributing enough to max out that match because it is free money. You're also encouraged to try and increase your contributions from year to year if possible. Finally, invest with patience. Big returns only happen if you stick with investing over many years through the good times and the bad times. That, of course, means that you'll likely have to stomach healthy and ailing economies, market downturns, and market upturns. Viewership for President Trump's interview with Tucker Carlson blows the Fox News GOP presidential primary debate out of the water. Listen to these numbers. Nearly 13 million people tuned in for the debate across all of Fox's platforms. That's the number that's being widely reported this morning. It dwarfs in comparison to the 248 million views President Trump brought to X during his sit-down with Tucker. By the way, Wednesday's debate viewership was down from the first GOP presidential primary debate back in August of 2015. An historic 24 million viewers tuned in, and yes, Donald Trump was on the debate stage that day. The majority of President Trump's co-defendants in the Georgia RICO case have turned themselves in and are back home with their families this morning after posting bond. But this man remains locked up. Harrison Floyd reportedly didn't negotiate a bond agreement, so he remains in jail accused of pressuring a poll worker to confess to voter fraud. The 39-year-old served as the director of Black Voices for Trump. Similar to President Trump, he surrendered to Fulton County authorities on Thursday. His charges include racketeering, conspiracy to solicit false statements, and influencing witnesses. That's a quick check of your headlines from AMAC. Of course, we'll have more headlines coming your way here momentarily. Now, let's get you back to David Brody. And David, the talk of President Trump's arrest is, of course, what everyone across the globe is talking about this morning.
Well, that's right. And you're right. It's across the globe. It's the mugshot heard around the world. And sadly, this is not only just a horrible day for America, it's more than that. I believe, Terrance and ladies, that America has changed forever. I really do. I really believe that. And look, I'm a jovial guy. I'm a glass half full guy. I'm not the pessimistic guy. But this will strike, put pessimism right in the middle of your heart when you see pictures like that with Donald Trump there in the Fulton County Jail. All right, let's bring in Bob Barr, who, of course, was one of the House impeachment lawyers during Bill Clinton's impeachment. Bob, good to see you this morning. Sadly, under these circumstances, I'm curious about your reaction first to the mugshot, because a visual matters. It's not just he's been indicted before in other places and even in Georgia, but the visual here takes it to a different level.
There was really no need to do a mugshot of the president. Everybody knows who he is. Every law enforcement officer in Fulton County knows who he is and would be on the lookout for him if they saw him trying to abscond or flee the district. So that was just the latest, the latest in a long string of efforts to simply publicize what the district attorney is doing. The long lead up to the indictment several days ago, teasing people, it's coming, and it's coming. We have to, have the courtroom cordoned off, the whole courthouse cordoned off. That was all just hype. And the mugshot was the latest example of that.
Yeah, and Bob, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan wants answers. He's actually requesting documents from Fani Willis's office. What has been the actual correspondence potentially between her office and Jack Smith's office? She says she's publicly said that she doesn't know Jack Smith. She has no idea. Well, we'll see what the documents show. But Jim Jordan is saying that what Donald Trump was doing in Georgia would be considered official presidential actions. He was in office. He was taking actions as president. I'm curious to get your responses to how you see this playing out legally in Georgia.
It raises, if not a unique, a very, very unusual question, and it's probably time that the courts did step in and decide this. Now, whether or not the courts look at the so-called removal statute, which goes back well over 100 years, a century and a half, and decide that what Mr. Trump was doing was part of his official duties or was not, needs to be clarified. Because now that this genie is out of the bottle with this indictment, the American people in our legal system need to know what the proper parameters are for a federal official to either contest an election or to take steps to do anything relating to a federal election. So I do hope that the federal court takes up this issue. I know they initially declined, but I do hope that they give very careful consideration to it, because it is a question that we need to know and every future president needs to know moving forward.
Well, that kind of goes to the Supreme Court question. Will this? I'm assuming it'll reach the Supreme Court. Seems to be the obvious answer. What's your view on the timeline of all of this? Fani Willis and honestly Jack Smith and all the others, they want speedy trials. They want trials before November of 2024, which is just ridiculous politically on its face. But what do you think? Do you think there will be a trial in any of these cases, but specifically Georgia, before 2024? And then do you see that being overturned, whether it be at the appellate level or the Supreme Court level?
First of all, I think the issue of removal for some of the federal officials, or former federal officials, such as Mark Meadows and the former Attorney of Justice, that could very well be fast-tracked to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court rarely reaches down into a local case and pulls it up for quick review, but this could be a case where that happens because of the stakes involved. But if it doesn't and all of the defendants remain, there certainly will be moves. I think they've already started to separate out some of the defendants. There are others that want a fast trial, some that don't. It's a very complex case, needlessly complex in my opinion. So I would be very surprised if we see a trial before the election next year.
Hey, Bob, I've got less than a minute left. Let me quickly ask you about this Pew Research poll that you talked about. You wrote an op-ed about this regarding the fact that people now want to see, a majority of people, 55% or so, want to see an increase, or they see government restrictions on free speech as being a good thing, that they want more restrictions on free speech, or at least they approve of a government restricting free speech more than any time in American history. I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
This goes to perhaps one of the most, if not the most fundamental problem facing us today, and that is ignorance on part of the American people about their constitutional liberties. When you have in this Pew poll, which was nonpartisan, a majority of people saying we want the government to censor harmful speech, and we want tech companies to censor harmful or fraudulent speech, that indicates to me that majority of the American people don't understand their constitutionally guaranteed liberties, and they're willing to give them up in the search for safety or convenience. Very, very dangerous if that continues.
Bob Barr, great to have you here on the show. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.
All right. When we come back on American Sunrise, this is a tough time for Americans. It's been a tough time for a long time, but with that mugshot and what we've been seeing the last few months with Donald Trump and all of these indictments, we need some prayer perspective. Father Frank Malone, Pastor Malone, coming up. Pavone, excuse me, I said Malone. Pavone coming up here in a moment. And also later, Duke Energy policies under attack. Find out why some customers in North Carolina are paying the price for some ridiculous policies. We're back in a moment.
Welcome back to American Sunrise. Here we go again. COVID pandemonium is back. Take a look at this headline. U.S. school district halts in-person classes amid COVID and flu outbreaks. Well, guess what? That's not an old story. That's not the Babylon Bee. It's real news. It's current news. The CDC says people are testing positive with COVID again, and people are rushing to the emergency room because the corporate news media tells people they will die if they get COVID. But this Kentucky school says it's also the flu and strep throat that is going around because kids don't actually experience COVID symptoms very often. They never have. But they have resorted to remote learning again anyway, even though children learn nothing remotely, and it doesn't work, and it's been proven over and over again.
Over and over again.
Yeah.
Maybe these sick kids could use, I don't know, the emergency kit from the wellness company. Hey,
sounds like a plan.
Yeah, I like that. This kit has a wide range of medications to treat just about anything you can think of, and they have a guidebook to help you figure everything out, so it makes it real easy.
They even included ivermectin and a Z-Pack, and these days you must have those on hand. So here's what you do. Go to twc.health/RAV today. Use code RAV at the checkout to get your emergency kit, and you'll get 10% off as well.
Good deal. All right, let's check in with Terrance Bates and see what he's up to in the RAV headquarters. How's it going, Terrance?
Miranda and Gina, mwah, mwah, to both of you. Good morning.
Mwah, mwah. Love you too.
It's Friday. I'm happy. I'm sorry. I need a break. It's been a very, very long week, as you both know. We want to talk about the story that the entire world is talking about these days, and that would be President Trump mugshotted. It is quite literally and figuratively unprecedented. Never before has a U.S. president been arrested or had his mugshot blasted around cyberspace. David Zier, host of Breaking Point here on Real America's Voice, joins me now to talk more about the Trump arrest. And David, I want to play off the name of your show. Is what we're seeing truly a breaking point in U.S. history?
I don't think there's any doubt about it. We're going to face a tough year, 2024. Who knows what they're going to throw at Trump, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And we've heard the word unprecedented. I don't even like using it anymore because it seems so trite, but it is true. We've never been here before. We've never seen anything like this before. What kind of slippery slope do you see this creating for our country?
Well, I believe that we're in a takeover from the left, takeover by cultural Marxism and, a Marxist-style regime. These Democrats aren't the Democrats of the 1960s. So it's a very scary time. I believe that combined with the technocratic state to control your movements and your life and lockdowns and everything have all concentrated the government's power against the average person and this contempt for them. And if you look at the debate the other night, Fox didn't bring up real issues that are affecting Americans. I got some extraordinary data for you here on housing and the economy and the BRICS. So, I think it's all projection and a distraction. The indictments are, and it's a bad time.
And we're going to get to those issues that you mentioned because those are key, and there's a lot of substance to talk about that came out of the debate and just in terms of real life for Americans. But, there's a saying that a picture speaks 1,000 words. Guys, can we put up the picture of President Trump? Can we put up that mugshot again? David, I want you to look at this mugshot, and what does this picture say to you? I don't need 1,000 words, but what does this picture say to you?
Well, I think his Twitter post, his first one since 2 days after Jan 6 in 2021, his reemergence, he combined that picture with his tweet. He already has like 110 million views on it as of today. So I think it demonstrates the incredible impact that Trump has on the dialogue and how Americans really feel.
Let's get down to some brass tacks and talk about real kitchen table issues. The economy, of course, is what is driving many voters saying that is their key concern right now. And there are reports out this morning that we may be moving closer to a recession.
Well, 33 million small businesses in America employ 46% of the private workforce and 40% of the U.S. economy they represent. 52% of small businesses, as per the National Federation of Independent Businesses, I spoke to them the other day, 52% of U.S. business owners, small business owners, think we are already in a recession. And did you know that 64% of small business owners are not paying themselves a salary out of their small business? 58% of them say the borrowing and interest rates are their biggest complaint in accessing financing. The NFIB Small Business Optimism Index is 91.9. It's below the historical average of 98. It's been below the average for 19 consecutive months. And I reached out to the NFIB, and the chief economist told me that small business owners are paid out of the bottom line. Money left after paying workers, operating costs, taxes, regulatory costs. Inflation at 10% has driven the cost to new highs, while the administration is, taxing more, looking for ways to raise taxes and audit business owners. A very difficult time for America's small businesses.
And the prime culprit in all of this is inflation, but I think one has to add to that Bidenflation.
There's no doubt about it. And if you look at about 90% of the nation's inflation is shelter inflation, which relates to home building and housing, a 1.5 million unit housing deficit in the United States. The only way to tame that inflation is to build more. Now, permits are down. So starts are up 3.9%, but permits are down. The increased cost for the homes account for 90% of last month's inflation nationwide, up 7.7% from a year ago. Tighter inventory. People don't want to sell their houses. They got nowhere to go. It's driving up the median existing home price. Sales are down 16% year over year existing homes, 2.2% slip just since July. And the average home is $406,000, up 1.9% from last year, or I think even last month. But regardless, it's an extraordinary number. The access to housing is very tough. And two factors drive housing and inflation: inventory availability and mortgage rates. So, and you remember, housing construction represents 5% of the GDP for the United States. So it's a very serious issue.
David, you threw a lot of numbers at us, and I get where you're going. I'm going to play dumb here for a minute, though. Put all of those numbers into real context. What does this mean for the average everyday American?
It means your buying power is less. And, and then you have to also take into account these tax assessments in these local municipalities have a lot to do with inaccessibility. Here on Long Island, you build a new home, it's $20,000 a year in taxes. Existing homes are $16,000. So by the time you're done for the average buyer and for first-time buyers, you have less access. Now, the trend going in the building industry, I have a background in residential construction and commercial construction, is that homes, even though growth has slowed in the last year, there's been a 9% increase in the homes that are smaller. So if you reduce the footprint of new construction by 10% even, you save $30,000 to say $75,000 on the cost of a home. And that's the trend. And your tax assessments are based on square footage as well. So people want to lower their overhead. It can cost you, these jumbo loans at FHA, they go up to what, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000, you put 3% down. What's your overhead after $16,000 a year in taxes and your insurance on your home? It's like $10,000 in Florida to get homeowners insurance in regions too. So what does it cost you? $6,000 a month for your house, probably 2/3 of your take-home income.
Right. And I want to point out the big picture here is you're paying more just to keep a roof over your head. You're paying more to put food on your table, and largely you're not making a whole lot more money. So what gives is the question that many Americans have right now.
I'll throw on top of it $4 plus per gallon for, gas prices, home heating oil. It's predicted to be a cold winter once again. They were wrong last year, but I think this year it's a little more accurate. In the Northeast, home heating oil dependent, $5, $6 a gallon for home heating oil, $7 a gallon for gas in LA right now. You combine that, and I've seen a recent spike in the food markets of food. I saw steak is up $2, $3 a pound again. Even though some things have come down, a lot is up. And that recent spike combined with everything everything and energy costs, it's going to be devastating for the people. I think that's why we're going through what we're doing. It's a distraction from the real conversation and the ailing economy. They paint the rosy picture, soft landing, and this and that. I don't buy it. I just don't buy it.
David, you're living high off the proverbial hog. You're eating steak. I'm all about ground chuck, my friend, but we'll move on. We'll move past that. Let's talk about a story that you and I were talking about earlier this morning, and it's largely underreported. The BRICS summit that happened in South Africa, several other nations now joining the BRICS group, and ultimately, and you helped me explain this, ultimately this is about destabilizing the U.S. dollar and taking the U.S. dollar out of rotation, if you will.
I think as far as China and Russia are concerned, yes, that is the case. BRICS has doubled its strength in this new conference in South Africa. They're adopting 6 more nations: Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, Argentina, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. Now, they represent 40% of the world's population now, and 1/4 of the world's GDP. It's very significant. And Russia and China are intent on inflicting as much economic damage to the West and possibly seeking to undermine the U.S. dollar. Brazil's president, though, was hesitant and saying, listen, we don't want to be a counterpoint to G7, G20, and the United States, giving notice that BRICS members should not be organized to completely, compete with the U.S. and Western organizations. But I think it's inevitable. And how much damage will they put on the U.S. dollar? I think that's a very big concern. And Trump said with Tucker Carlson and a lot of the rallies I cover with Real America's Voice News, he says likening the expanding power of BRICS and losing that trade based on the U.S. dollar is like losing World War II in the size and scope as the BRICS concentrates their power. It's the 15th anniversary of BRICS. It was coined in 2001 by the Goldman Sachs chief. It originally just included, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. South Africa has been added, but 24 countries want to join in addition to the recent ones that were inducted under their umbrella. And without the U.S. leading the way in manufacturing, which is slipping according to the Wall Street Journal today, without it being a leader in energy production. Remember, under Trump, it was strategic energy dominance every day, and under Biden, it's renewables, ending fossil fuel technology and exploration. Capital investment has waned under him, and we're pursuing renewables. It's not the answer for our way out of this to maintain our leadership role in the world.
Yeah. David, 10 seconds here. Tell me what you're working on for the show this weekend.
Well, I got Chadwick Moron, the author of Tucker. It's on the New York Times bestseller list, so stay tuned for Breaking Point tomorrow, 8 a.m. And I have the nation's largest Catholic health system having spa-like conditions like masseuses and atheist music playing in the background and cucumber water while you get an abortion. And this is a Catholic healthcare network. So I got a great show for you tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern.
Looking forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much. David Zier reporting for us this morning. We're going to take a quick break so that you can warm up your coffee, folks. But when we come back, stay awake, not woke. Find out how one energy company is using their power to push their woke agenda. Stick around for more American Sunrise.
All right, you know what that means. It's time for Stay Awake, Not Woke, sponsored by our good friends over at Beard Vet Coffee. Go to beardvet.com. Use that promo code RAB and save yourself 10%. And it is such good coffee, and boy, do we need it this week.
Oh, sister.
Ooh, let me tell you. So take a look at this headline. So Duke Energy, a company that has been accused of monopolizing energy in North Carolina, is now under fire for raising rates to push woke policies. Again, check this out. The company moved away from traditional and cheap, affordable sources of energy to more expensive sources like wind and solar. They had to hike up those prices. They then hiked up the price for its customers. Isn't that nice? There is now a consumer-led ad campaign that is blasting Duke Energy. So this big energy company may have finally met its match. And this is just unbelievable.
Yeah, and even though it's not so unbelievable because,
you're right.
companies are doing this all over the place. There is big money in this climate industry. Let's not forget that. This is all about money. This is about Democrats rewarding their friends and punishing their enemies. And really everything they do is about that same theme, them rewarding their friends and punishing their enemies. But this is how it's done. They award these massive solar farms, these massive wind farms to their friends. I remember, if anybody remembers, Governor Carnahan from Missouri went down in a plane crash, actually, and his family ended up getting, his wife, who then subsequently became governor, it was a bizarre set of circumstances, senator rather, bizarre set of circumstances. Anyway, they were totally rewarded with this massive wind farm. And, you're driving down the highway, what used to be beautiful Missouri, and now it's like a wind farm mecca, and it's so disturbing. And by the way, kills many birds, does lots more damage to the environment than it helps.
Yeah. I want to welcome back in David and Terrance to join in on the conversation. And Gina, I know that you've done extensive research like nobody I've ever seen. You were like a walking encyclopedia when it comes to this climate change hoax. So we're lucky
It's to battle back at my lib dad.
Yeah.
That's why.
Well, it's working. It's working. Hope your dad's watching. Yeah.
Well, and one of the things here, ladies, is you mentioned, Gina, all about climate change, right? I mean, Duke Energy wants to invest $145 billion with a B, dollars in net zero emissions. So, I mean, this is the type of stuff we're talking about. And, the way I see it, for folks at home, folks that are watching this, all of us as well, I mean, what are we going to do? We have a decision to make. It's we the people. So the decision is, are we going to, in the case of Duke Energy, are we going to get away from that? Are we going to, go with another company? Sometimes you can't, but a lot of times you can. And that means the time invested as well, that you need to kind of go research what company is best for you. And that's why it's great to have a lot of the patriot companies out there, really, those American-based companies that care about American values.
Gina, Miranda, I'm curious to get your take. Is this whole issue of climate change really more of a dog whistle issue? Is it something to distract from the real issues the American people are dealing with?
I think it serves both purposes, honestly, Terrance. I think it is a dog whistle. It is a distraction. You think about the worthy causes that this $138 billion you're talking about, David, could go toward. And it's gut-wrenching. It's sad. And when you really look at just things that could be solved with the billions being put into this climate madness, from the border to human trafficking, the list goes on and on. Even
just Palestine. They act like they care about climate change. There's a massive chemical
homeless
spill.
Veterans. I mean, you buy a home for every veteran when you're spending that kind of money, right? It's sad. And I think that's a great point that you make, Terrance. Anyway, up next, finding faith in these trying times. Ahead of Sunday Mass, Father Frank Pavone has some things to tell us, and he's going to join us with some words to soothe your soul. We thought it was a good time for that. So we'll be back with Father Frank Pavone right after this.
back, everyone. You're watching American Sunrise here on Real America's Voice. I'm Terrance Bates. As always, we appreciate you being here. For those of you who got to get out of the house by the top of the hour, it's about 56 after right now, 4 minutes before the top of the hour. It's time now for our moment of faith. It's, of course, been a very hellish week. Our great country is dealt with natural disasters, community discord, political mayhem, a lot going on, Dr. Gina, and I'm hoping that you're able to give us a little bit of hope in all of these times of discord and angst, if you will. Dr. Gina, good morning.
Good morning, Terrance. So nice to be with you. Yes, so honored to have this next guest with us. Joining us with words of wisdom is Father Frank Pavone. Father Pavone, always an honor to have you on, but especially today for some reason. And I don't think that this necessarily has to be some sort of sad moment. I think there's a lot of positivity in the world, a lot of pro-life things happening. As Priests for Life, as the person who runs that whole thing, you've got to be counting your blessings, and we who care about life, right, we have to be counting blessings as well, because this has been really the most pro-life year ever, thanks to Donald Trump and the hard work of folks like you. Tell us.
Well, yes, Gina, great to be with you. And we have been making tremendous progress. You know, people will sometimes point out defeats that have happened in certain ballot initiatives, of course. But look at the fact that half of the states across our country have instituted more protections, not fewer, for the most weak and vulnerable children. And this leads us to a bigger spiritual lesson. You know, sometimes, and I know most of our viewers are people of faith, as are most Americans. Sometimes we think of the faith, though, just as, you know, inspiring stories, inspiring examples. You know, we see Jesus himself going to the cross, but then rising from the dead. But the reality I want to bring across today is very simple. Our religion, our faith is not just about inspiring stories. It's about the fact, like St. Paul says to the Corinthians, do you not know that Jesus Christ is in you? He is living in us. The reason we're having victories for pro-life, the reason that we're persevering through all of these attacks, the weaponization of our government, the tyranny that's reasserting itself in America, is that we know that the one who is living in us, Jesus Christ, risen from the dead, has already won the victory over all these evils. The battle is still real, but he is actually living in, speaking through, and fighting through us to bring that victory to its full flowering.
And living babies, such a happy thought for so many of us. Still, so many people today they can't afford their grocery bills. They can't afford their gas bills. They're watching the person that they believe was their rightful president, not just have the presidency stolen right from them, but also now to actually face jail time for something that is obviously a created circumstance, right? This isn't new. Ecclesiastes tells us that there's nothing new under the sun. We know this isn't new. But give us the wisdom of our forefathers. Give us the wisdom of the biblically spiritual who went before us, and tell us how to persevere through some of these things that feel like really dark days.
I would recommend, Dr. Gina, for people to go back to the book of Lamentations in the Old Testament. You know, Jeremiah the prophet had told the people of Judah at that time, you know, the Babylonians are coming. They're going to take over your land. They're going to burn the city, destroy the temple, but don't even try to resist them, because this is God's punishment for your violating the covenant. And they said, Jeremiah is a traitor. Well, sure enough, the Babylonians came and all that happened. And the book of Lamentations is like the most exquisite expression of human grief and distress that we all feel, thanks to the things that you're mentioning. And yet right in the middle of that book, you see these words: this I will call to mind as my reason to have hope. The favors of the Lord are not exhausted. His mercies are not spent. They are renewed each morning. So great is his faithfulness. He's not finished blessing America either. And the passage tells us, root yourself in that confidence. Our founding fathers said, we appeal to the providence and the justice of God. They knew that there were going to be trials. They put this nation in his hands. That's how we have to live through this. The truth always prevails. fails, and we wait in silence for the saving help of the Lord, we fight back. That's precisely why we fight back, because we have that basis of confidence in our souls that no matter how strong the enemy seems, we can and will overcome, just as the Jewish people did of old, just as Christ himself did.
Beautiful. Father Frank Pavone, priest for life. He's personally been canceled and persecuted by his own Vatican. We love you. We thank you. Coming up, everybody, on the second hour of American Sunrise, Bruce Lavelle joins us from Georgia on the Trump indictment and the brand new, most famous mugshot heard around the world. American Sunrise back in 2 minutes. Stick around. Welcome back, everybody. Good to see you.
Yeah, President Trump surrendered to authorities in Atlanta last night. Longtime Trump advisor Bruce Lavelle will be here with us live with insight into what's going on inside Team Trump.
And the prosecutor behind the case against the president, Fulton County DA Fani Willis, is feeling the heat as she is now under investigation by Congressman Jim Jordan, who of course wants a full account of her case and her motives.
Hollywood superstar Jennifer Aniston has had enough of cancel culture, and she's not afraid to say it. Those stories and more on this second hour of American Sunrise.
We've got your back as you start your day.
Articulating what the majority of Americans feel today, and I really appreciate that you do.
Y'all tell the truth.
You guys are our voice.
Watch every morning while getting ready for work.
Welcome, everybody, to Hour 2 of American Sunrise.
Yeah, I hope your morning is off to a good start. I know a lot of you are kind of feeling down a little bit. It's hard to get excited about the weekend because of it's been a heavy news week. I mean, we never anticipated that we'd be this state in our country.
But I feel, honestly, from Patriots, when I look out there on social media and whatever, I feel a sense of resolution. I feel that people are resolute. I feel that people are determined. There's a righteous indignation about our land. And let's bring in David Brody in Washington, D.C. to talk more about it. Hey, David.
Ladies, good to see you, of course, as always. You know, I've been checking the chat through the first hour, and a couple folks have said, you look angrier this morning. Yeah, darn straight I'm angrier. And, you know, normally I've got, you know, some jovial thing to say or, you know, something I've eaten the night before or some musical that I've seen, whatever. You know, I kind of feel like, you know, today maybe might not be a day for that because, honestly, I want to be authentic. We all want to be authentic on the show, and I am ticked off. I'm ticked off. Now, here's the thing. One of the things I thought about is my two granddaughters. I've got a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. And I thought about what in the world, what kind of America is going to, what are they going to have? When they get older. Yeah. What kind of America are we going to live in? And it's just so frustrating. I must tell you that Lawrence O'Donnell from MSNBC, and yes, I know, I had to take Excedrin after I listened to Lawrence O'Donnell. But Lawrence O'Donnell said this, and I'm not even paraphrasing. I mean, I guess I'm technically paraphrasing, but not really. It's pretty much what he said, which is this. He says, it took us 234 years to get to this point in terms of this mugshot of a former, you know, president. You know, he's got all this stuff. He goes, and it might take another 234 years until we get to another situation where we have a president indicted and a mugshot. And I'm thinking to myself, no, it's not going to take 234 years because at this rate, we may not have a country in 234 years. And quite frankly, at this point, it's a game of escalation, ladies. It is a game of escalation because just like impeachment, I'm sorry, I know you all want to get in there, but just real quick, on impeachment, it's the same thing, right? I mean, oh, you're going to impeach our president? We'll impeach your president. You're going to impeach our, I mean, where does it end? I mean, this is a very, very dangerous game. I am ticked off this morning, and I'm ticked off for my granddaughters. I'm ticked off for America, and I'm ticked off at all of the left that saw this, that wanted this mugshot. And I got news for them. January 2025, you can put that mugshot somewhere else. And I can't say it on the air, but on January 20th, 2025, get ready because it's going to be a whole different situation then, for sure.
But I think that they opened a can of worms, as you alluded. It'll be no 235 years because two can play their game. And I'm afraid that what they've done is just created this back and forth that's just not going to be pretty going forward in terms of Republicans doing it to Democrats, Democrats doing it back to Republicans. That's how politics works. That's the part that they're being very short-sighted on. But I'm not going to say
we shouldn't fight evil with evil.
No, I agree with you.
Justice is what we should
I agree with you, but I also definitely believe in fighting back hard. That's what I love about Trump is that he is the counterpuncher. And I want to say about feeling down, I just want to say to our viewers out there, it is normal to go through stages of grief whenever we have something like this happen, even in our broader body politic. It doesn't have to be a personal incident. I think it's normal to shed a few tears. I think it's normal to be angry. I also think it's normal to at some point start to feel a sense of resolution, rather, as I said at the beginning, and a sense of moving forward. How are we going to do this? And I can say, since I believe that Donald Trump eats his enemies for breakfast, this was a great big meal for Donald Trump. He's well rested, he's well fed, and he's ready to fight. Let's bring in Terrance, though, so we can get his take on this as well. Terrance, welcome back. Good morning.
Hey, guys. Good morning. Yeah, we'll get to that story here in just a minute because it is obviously the big talker of the day, but there are some other headlines that we need to cover as well. Questions being raised this morning about a possible cover-up related to the deadly fires in Maui, Hawaii. In fact, Hawaiian Electric reportedly removed damaged power poles and equipment from the site where the fire is believed to have started before investigators were able to survey the scene. The utility reportedly began removing those items from near a Lahaina substation starting around August 12th. The Washington Post reporting the actions may have violated national guidelines for how utilities should handle and preserve evidence after a wildfire. The utility is out with a statement this morning saying, and I quote, "In regular communication with the ATF and local authorities, and we're cooperating to provide them as well as attorneys representing people affected by the wildfires with inventories and access to the removed equipment, which we have carefully photographed, documented, and stored." Meantime, the death toll is now up to 115 people. Only 28 of the victims have been positively identified. Hundreds more are missing. That's a quick headline. Of course, the big story of the day, ladies and gentlemen, is the situation involving Donald Trump having been arrested. Miranda, we're getting ready to get an interview and a kind of perspective from right on the ground there, correct?
Correct. Thank you so much, Terrance, for those headlines. Let's head out now to Atlanta, where Ben Bergquam has been camped out there for the past 24 hours, more than 24 hours. Good to see you, Ben. I know you were out there for a long day and 100-degree heat. And it seemed like the Secret Service was doing whatever they could to make it as difficult as possible for you to get the truth out there. But never mind that. You did it. And you're out with us again this morning. A lot of array of emotions, as we saw, and I'm so glad that Gina was able to do that interview with Frank Pavone. This is, in some ways, bringing the country together, those MAGA supporters together. It's galvanizing them. Yes, some are angry, some are somber. How are you feeling today, and what is the mood on the ground where you are?
Well, I was just thinking about that while you guys were talking about it. I was after the election theft of 2020. I went through a couple of weeks of depression. I mean, it was like, is this really happening to our country? This can't be happening to our country. And then you see what happened January 6th. But even before that, with a coup against President Trump for 4 years, and Antifa and BLM burning down our streets and terrorizing our communities, and these DAs, Soros DAs, and leftist communities turning towards communism. We've been having our skin toughened in America, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, you look at where we're at now. Honestly, I don't feel much. I feel anger, but I also feel like we're going to win this thing. I feel like the left is doing everything they possibly can, but it's truth versus lies. And for the longest time, the left hid behind. They would say the right things, but behind the scenes they were pushing lies. Now they're just telling their lies, and the American people get to see that. They get to distinguish between the two and make the choice for themselves. And I think here, especially, what I saw yesterday was people saying, you know what, we understand what they're doing now, what they're doing to President Trump. I had so many people come up to me yesterday that are from the Atlanta area, and they're saying what they're doing to President Trump is what they've done to us, and we're tired of it. And I think the American people are tired of it. So I also think what President Trump, it's what the enemy means for evil, God is going to use for good. And that mugshot, immediately, President Trump's already fundraising on it. And I say, go for it. Take this thing. It's just like when Hillary Clinton called us deplorables. And it's like, yeah, we'll be deplorables. We'll be ultra MAGA deplorables. And that's, it's taking what they want for evil. It's taking that disdain, that hatred in their heart, and turning it towards love to our fellow man, to our MAGA base, and even love towards our enemies. And that's the thing, we don't hate our enemies. We want the best for them. We want them to find Jesus. We want them to turn their lives around. But in the meantime, we're going to defeat them. And that's what I love about President Trump. He's not stopping. He's not slowing down. And that's why he is the perfect person. He's the only person that's running for president right now that has the stones to do what's necessary to take this country back. And that's why MAGA stands behind him. And I also believe that's why so many Americans who may have not supported President Trump before will support President Trump. So I still believe America's best days are ahead of us. It's going to be painful, though. I mean, you think about the levels of power that the left controls, and they truly want to destroy this country. They are actively inviting an invasion on our southern border. They are allowing criminals to run free in cities like Atlanta, but they're criminalizing patriots. And we see that with the January 6th political prisoners, and we saw that with President Trump yesterday. But I believe the American patriots are waking up.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. Love hearing that, because that's definitely what we need to hear today, because a lot of emotions, like I said, people are waking up, some of them somber. So hopefully this will galvanize people together. But I do see Republicans taking some action now. Finally, we're going to talk more about that when we talk about draining the swamp. Ben Bergquam, thank you, and all the team out there for their hard work. Coming up, is Kevin McCarthy holding up the possible impeachment of President Biden? I hope so. It certainly sounds like it. Also, as I mentioned, Jim Jordan starts his investigation into Fani Willis, a woman who is leading the charge against President Trump. Could she finally be removed from office? We're going to discuss all those details when American Sunrise continues. We'll be right back.
weekend sunrise. I'm Dr. Gina in the Rav West Palm Beach studios. David Brody joins us from Washington, D.C. Swamp. And, of course, I have Miranda Khan here with me as well. Hold on tight, David, because now it's time to drain the swamp. Hold on, David. Sponsored by Sea of Mud Apparel Company. Sponsored by Sea of Mud. This segment sponsored by Sea of Mud. SeaofMud.com. Use promo code RAV1776 for 15% off.
And we love Sea of Mud because it is just a rural American patriotic apparel company, all American made, and they have so much more than those awesome t-shirts, which they are pretty cool. They have knives, they have drinkware, swimwear, and jewelry. Did I mention they have jewelry? Just want to make sure that
Miranda,
everyone's
do
clear.
you like jewelry?
Just a little bit, you know. I'm just throwing it out there. So if you're thinking about what to get me for Christmas, I'm just throwing it out there. You might want to go to Sea of Mud, and I know you've been eyeballing those knives, Gina. So.
Well, my son Bo, and it happens to be his birthday. Happy birthday, Bo! Happens to collect knives. So yes, I have been eyeing those knives. Anyway, this week we introduced you to Georgia State Senator Colton Moore. Senator Moore is on a mission to have Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis impeached over her prosecution of President Trump. He says it's an abuse of power. Watch this.
This is a rogue district attorney taking my and every Georgian's hardworking tax dollars to fund political persecution. She's taken on political prisoners. We have fellow senators in my caucus who are going to be indicted. Okay? If Stacey Abrams was governor right now, they wouldn't be senators anymore because they would be suspended from duties. This is a constitutional crisis in our state. And that's why I'm leading the charge, telling folks in Georgia to call their state senators, call their representatives, demand an emergency special session today. And the first and foremost priority when we get into that session, defunding state dollars from Fani Willis.
Finally, a real MAGA Republican saying what all Republicans should have been doing all along.
Right.
You go after one of ours, guess what? We're coming after you.
Yeah.
Senator Moore's efforts have caught the attention of D.C. guys, and Jim Jordan, maybe he was watching this show, is now investigating Fani Willis, demanding that she turn over all communications that she had with the feds because it appears that she was colluding with Jack Smith and the DOJ to hit Trump with a rushed indictment to cover up their botched plea deal with Hunter Biden. David, it's about time.
Well, and here's the thing with Fani Willis. There's so many issues here. First of all, Colton Moore brought up the fact that Fani Willis has been on the warpath for a very long time. That's true. I mean, when she was running for DA, she actually said, I'm looking to get Trump. I mean, that's what she made her campaign all about that. So we're supposed to believe that now all of a sudden she's decided to, pursue justice in a fair and equal way. Give me a break. She said it during her campaign. That was why she wanted to get elected, to do exactly what she's doing now. So I guess in a way, good for her. She fulfilled a campaign promise. Give me a break. I'm being facetious. Or as Joe Biden would say, look, I'm not being facetious. And then there's Jim Jordan, which is really interesting here because Jim Jordan is saying, I want to see the receipts. I want to see the records. I want to see if Jack Smith and Fani Willis have been, getting together. Now, once again, I don't think we're going to see an email that's from Fani to Jack Smith or Jack to Fani. But I do believe that their offices definitely were talking to each other, and that is significant, clearly. And here, so here's the thing. We're seeing all this, and yet at the same time, Fani Willis has said all along, don't know Jack Smith, don't know anything about any of what's going on in New York. Okay, well, let's wait and see on that.
Yeah, to be sure.
We're not buying it.
No. Up next, Bruce Lavelle, one of President Trump's most trusted advisors, will be here with an insider's perspective into all that has happened to the president in the last 48 hours. We'll be right back.
And welcome back to Sunrise, Detroit, Michigan, the home of the shenanigans of 2020 when it comes to the election. Look, there's so much that we want to unpack, and we have been unpacking on the show regarding President Trump's mugshot that will now live in infamy, sadly. It's a day that has changed. It's a photo, really, that has changed America. We've never seen this in the country's history, and it is the left running wild in this country. Let's bring in Bruce Lavelle, longtime advisor. I shouldn't say former. Hello, he's there. He's a longtime advisor for President Trump. Bruce, good to see you. And sadly, again, under these circumstances, what's the scuttlebutt inside Trump world this morning?
Well, we're just keep moving ahead. I've watched all the great positive posts, and thanks for having me this morning. All the tweets with the mug shots, and I doctored my mugshot too and sent it out there. So there's a template running around, what you're just showing on the screen, and everyone's putting their face. And I guess that's some form of, as you might say, solidarity or standing with President Trump. Seeing many, many photos coming out with him of people from across the country standing with him. Yes, it's a very sad day, but it's also a good day. It's a good day to show what we've been dealing with, what he's been saying all along of what the left has been trying to do is essentially destroy our great nation. Listen, I'm in Atlanta, and I had this conversation with Dr. G the other day. Atlanta made me very wealthy. I'm very, it's a great city. I came here with $34. Many of my colleagues started with nothing, became millionaires. I can name several of my friends in my circles. So it's been a great city as to why we landed the Olympics. And so to see this type of behavior from a person who's not even from Georgia, not even from Atlanta, it's from Inglewood, California, and D.C., come down here and get elected and then create this narrative, as you said earlier in the broadcast, about I'm going to run on a platform getting Trump. Meanwhile, our jails are terrible, dire straits. The DOJ is supposedly actively investigating Sheriff Labatt's jail right now because of people dying, the deplorable, as you say that word, living arrangements that these inmates are in there. Also, watch this, Real America Voice, the tremendous amount of backlog case logs. The county commission is in an uproar. They're being threatened, challenged to want them to put a $1.6 billion new jail. And the existing commission is saying, no, prosecute the ones you have in there. And real quick, back in March, there were 2 open records requests on her that she's been stalling, showing the as we call it, show me the money. Where have you been spending this money as you relate to this case? Why aren't you putting in the resources of the backlog of dockets of criminals and murderers, yes, and rapists that are sitting in Fulton County Jail right now because you put all your attention on this? So that's going to be interesting to see that paper trail. To your earlier segment, you're talking about Jack Smith, and she's saying she's not having communications. I would almost bet everything I own that, yes, there has been communications with her and Jack Smith.
Well, and that will raise then questions about this trial in Georgia going forward, if that can be shown and proven, because that's going to show more than just a conflict of interest, but colluding and all of that. But we're not quite there yet. Bruce, I should say, folks in Denver, can we put up the mugshot again? Because when you see this mugshot, what does it scream to you? What does it say to you? Because I'll tell you what it says to me. It says, you better watch out. I'm ticked off. January 20th, 2025. And that's really sad that it has to even come to that this has to be a situation where the deep state has to be taken down anyhow. But the fact that they've done this to President Trump, I'm curious to get your reaction when you see that photograph. What's your reaction? What do you think? What do you think he is trying to convey, Bruce?
Well, it's what I know him personally. This is part of his character. This is a person that the harder you push him, the more you tell him no, the stronger. It's kind of like this. It's a weird type of thing. It actually fuels him. So I know it's kind of like most people are like, I don't want to be fueled this way, but I can testify, yes, that this actually fuels him. This motivates him. This energizes him. This gives him more like, it's just like, bam, a shot of adrenaline. So it's unfortunate. I know a lot of people are kind of like, there's a lot of noise out there. Oh, this sad day, doom and gloom. But you have to understand about the makeup and the character President Trump. And, really he tells on himself. He writes it in all his books about how it does energize. It's funny. He makes a reference saying, the toughest thing, he said, they asked him and said, well, isn't this bother you in this tough? He said, no, let me tell you what's tough. The toughest thing is trying to go through a zoning planning commission in the New York City to get a building built. He said, that's tough. I'm like, oh, okay. So that shows you the stamina and the willingness and the sacrifice to give it up all. A lot of us have given up a lot. Myself, many of us, 80+ million people, we sacrifice. Our business has been attacked. I've been attacked. A lot of people cut me off because I'm actually out here on national TV. So the friends that I thought were friends don't patronize my establishments. That's okay. We are finding out who our real friends are. We'll say this.
Well, and Bruce, and that's the point, right? I mean, there's a cost to this. There's a cost to freedom. There's a cost to standing for righteousness and the truth. And, we found, by the way, your mugshot. I guess we would call this fake news, technically, because you have not been arrested, though MSNBC will probably see this and go, look, Bruce Lavelle's been arrested, of course. Anyhow, what do you, when you put up that shot, and you talked about it a little bit earlier, that clearly is a show of solidarity. And I'm curious for our viewers out there who might be sitting at home, or I'm sure many of us are sitting at home, and feeling not just frustrated, but this idea of what can they do? How do they, in essence, kind of get through this, not from a psychological standpoint, but from a practical standpoint? Because I got to tell you, there is a fifth generational warfare situation here. The left wants MAGA to react. They want MAGA to quote, riot and tear things down, which of course they're not going to do. But the point is that that's what they want, because that will provide chaos, which will provide more tyranny.
Yeah, it's a great question. This is something I'm going to put my old party chairman hat on for years. And I say this to your audience, and just ask yourself this question. Ask yourself, okay, who is my current state representative in my community? Who is my state senator in my community? Who is my probate judge in my community? Who is my superior court judge in my community? Who is my solicitor in my community? Who is my district attorney? And you have to understand the local elections, what affects us, day to day. So, we run after the gubernatorials, we run after the presidential races. They have all the fluff. But really, and I'm glad you brought this up, because I've been pushing this, ladies and gentlemen, you have to be aware of everything around you, who's running for these seats, especially the solicitors and the DA's office and the probate and superior courts and state court. These are the most critical seats in your community. They affect divorces, they affect adoptions, they affect all types of things that affect you day to day. So please pay close attention. So next time we come out on the show, we ask you this question, then you should know and go research who these people are. So when the next election cycle comes up, find the person, watch this real quick, that's not tied to special interests and pay to play.
Great point, Bruce. It's not we the deep state, it's we the people. Really appreciate your time. Thank you, sir, for being here. Time to get economic headlines. The AMAC Economic Headlines with Terrance Bates in Denver.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
Well, you see the clapping. That means the markets are about to open. The bell has rung. And right now, it looks like things are going pretty well. Everything in green. The Dow is in green. The S&P 500 also on a positive note, opening up. The NASDAQ 500 also opening on a positive note this morning. Hopefully, we will end the week on a bit of a rally. And in other economic headlines, there's uneasiness this morning in the economic world as the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, are set to add even more economies to their network. The United Arab Emirates, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Argentina, and Ethiopia are set to enter the group, whose aim is to challenge the global dominance of the U.S. dollar. More specifically, BRICS is seeking to replace the dollar as the world's reserve currency. Geopolitical analysts say that there's a stronger likelihood of that happening now because BRICS countries will control a majority of the world's oil production and make up 30% of the world's GDP, exceeding $30 trillion. The latest move has many economists saying the de-dollarization and a crashing of the U.S. economy is not a question of if, rather when. As central banks in countries like China, India, and Australia begin transitioning to a digital currency, the Federal Reserve has been contemplating the very same thing here in the United States. With a digital currency, the government could track every single purchase you make. Officials could even prohibit you from purchasing certain products or easily freeze or seize part or all of your money. These are just some of the reasons concerned Americans are reaching out to the Birch Gold Group. They really want to have a physical asset that's independent of the U.S. dollar, and gold held in a tax-sheltered account very well may be the thing for you. So learn if gold is the right thing for you simply by texting the word America to the number 989898 and getting a free information kit on gold from the Birch Gold Group. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, thousands of satisfied customers, countless 5-star reviews, the Birch Gold Group has been helping many people just like you from the very beginning. Again, if you'd like some information, just text the word America to the number 989898 and claim your free information kit on gold, because if a central bank digital currency does become reality, it'll be nice to have some gold to depend on. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have some breaking news that's just into our newsroom. It looks like President Trump has transferred ownership of Mar-a-Lago. Gathering those details for you as we speak. When we come back, we'll update you.
Welcome back to American Sunrise. We have some breaking news just coming into our newsroom. Newsweek is reporting that President Donald Trump has reportedly sold Mar-a-Lago, according to a Zillow listing. The resort was purchased on August 4th, weeks before the president voluntarily turned himself in at Fulton County Jail in Georgia. Again, that happened yesterday, where he was booked on 13 felony counts yesterday. But good news for you, we've got the whole story, the real news, right?
A later report by The Express mentions that the former, and I don't say former president, that the president might have not actually sold the property, and this I know to be true, simply transferred its ownership to an organization owned by Donald Trump Jr., who's, of course, his son. I can tell you, as a member of Mar-a-Lago, I received no notification, so I'm not sure anything really changes. But the listing says that the 5,100 square foot mansion was sold on Friday, August 4th, for $422 million. Very interesting, and I guess we'll stay on top of this and see what else we can bring you. It's good to be in Palm Beach because Miranda and I might just have some inside stuff that we can snoop around on.
Well, you
this.
Especially. All right, we'll continue to follow that, but again, you're getting the real story here, the news behind the headline. All right, let's get to the saucy story today, 2024, because as you know, it keeps getting saucy. And, of course, this is sponsored by our good friends over at Red State Barbecue. Go to redstatebarbecue.com. Use that promo code RAB10 for 10% off. And you had some barbecue yesterday, G.
Yeah, I did. I did the Texas flavor.
Ooh.
Zen ordered in some, I don't know if it was, I guess it wasn't ribs, but it was something like ribs.
Like brisket. There's a new barbecue place that opened up down the street. Colin found it. And
I can't even find it. But I mean, Zen said he's going to go get lunch, and apparently he went whoosh, whoosh, and he was back with lunch. And so we could all taste all the barbecue flavors. And boy, there are some good ones. Some of us tasted a few of them.
What's your favorite?
Not going to lie. Well, I like that Texas spice one. I did like that.
You got to get to the
I really want to taste the Alabama one. I still haven't tasted it. I love the vinegar one, and I, of course, love that apple bourbon flavor that I tried last weekend.
Yeah. So, again, go to redstatebarbecue.com, use that promo code RAB10, and guess what? You can save 10% off. So, let's talk about this. So, after Wednesday's Republican debate, President Trump declared who he thought won. Mm-hmm. Taking to Truth Social, the president said Vivek Ramaswamy was the winner of the night. President Trump praising him, saying that he had, quote, a big win in the debate because of a thing called truth. The post included a clip of Ramaswamy declaring during the debate that Trump was the best president in American history. Not a bad way to get on the president's good side, I would say. So here's a big question. So is Vivek going to be the man Trump taps as his potential vice president? I would say it's hard to say. If so, would Vivek take the job? I'm just going to come out and say it. We were talking about this the other day and maybe you didn't get a chance to watch, which, by the way, you can always go to our website and rewatch. I don't think going into this debate, we all looked at it like the kids' table, as one of our viewers put it, that this was going to be where we're going to find out who could potentially be vice president. Mm-hmm. I don't think so. I didn't see vice president on that stage.
I didn't see vice president on that stage either, and I'm cracking up because the corporate media is declaring Ron DeSantis the winner, which I am just amused by. But I want to bring in David and Terrance and get their take, guys. Do you think that Vivek, that this lined him up? I think the reason President Trump liked Vivek is because he said what he says. I think he's like a little bad carbon copy, so to speak, of MAGA objectives, and I think that's why he liked him. But I want to hear from you guys. Terrance, what's your take?
I think the president likes him because he said President Trump is the greatest president of this century. That alone. I mean, look, let's just be honest. Flattery gets you everywhere.
That's true. Yeah. Also, let's also remember that Vivek Ramaswamy has said on multiple occasions he doesn't want to be number two. He wants to be number one. And he literally categorically has vehemently denied, saying, I will not be vice president, of course, or I will not I will not entertain the offer. Come on, give me a break. If he was offered it, of course he'd entertain it. Because things always change in politics. But beyond all of that, I don't think it's going to be him. I wouldn't be surprised potentially. I'm going to open up a can of worms if I say this. Don't worry, I'm not saying Nikki Haley. Kristi Noem, possibly Kristi Noem. But we'll see. Oh gosh. But anyhow, I think that's time for a debate for another time. But we need to move on. Go ahead. Like how I'm trying to move on.
I was just going to say we can go at this, but maybe we save it for another time. David and I, if you all don't know, we kind of like to debate this issue. We kind of debated the other day on Nikki Haley, just to refamiliarize
I was with my girl on this. I don't see it happening, but again,
and I don't see Kristi Noem either. But another day.
Now.
What's that?
Oh, there you go. Well, I'd love to know what our viewers think. Yeah, there you go. Okay, boys against girls. I see where you're going with it.
I just don't want to take any more of your time because I know you have a great interview with Donna Fiducia lined up, so I want you guys to take it away.
Well, that is so kind of you, Dr. Gina. Thank you very much. Donna Fiducia, Gina is your biggest fan because she says we need to get to Donna Fiducia, and I agree. Terrance Bates and I talking now with Donna Fiducia down in Georgia. Donna, of course, the host of Cowboy Logic here on Real America's Voice. Go at it, Donna. The floor is yours. I mean, the mugshot, what's happening in Georgia. I'm sure you have, I don't know, maybe a few things to say.
Well, love you guys all up there, too. Thank you, sir. I should say down there as well as up there since you're in D.C., David. But, Orange Man pissed. That's what it looks like. And there is that mugshot heard around the world. And what is it, 1.1 million hearts already on Twitter. And what a great way to go back on Twitter since he hadn't been there since January 8th, 2 days after the fateful January 6th, quote-unquote, protests. Peaceful protest. But I want to talk about Jordan Fuchs.
Yes.
Jordan Fuchs ran the Georgia Secretary of State Raffensperger's campaign, okay? And she apparently was the source, and you guys were talking about this earlier, that was outed by the Washington Post of saying false quotes attributed to President Trump about that yet another perfectly good phone call. So much so that the Washington Post actually retracted it, and this is years ago. So how come all of a sudden this is coming into play? She supposedly even said the difference was only about 1,000 votes, which is pretty damn close. And remember, we had 19 days to certify here in Georgia, so they had 19 days to find all the votes they needed. But here's the real big picture that nobody's talking about. Jordan Fuchs apparently recorded Trump in Florida.
Secretly.
Now, if that is the case, that's the thing. In Florida, you have to reveal that to both parties. You don't in Georgia. So this is something that went across state lines. I'm not a lawyer, but that doesn't sound like it's legal to me. That's huge. And Jordan Fuchs is now pretty much running the Secretary of State's office. Raffensperger has made no bones about the fact that he's probably going to run for governor. He's got a lot of Soros-backed money, and Brian Kemp's helping as well. So that is the bigger picture there. The other thing is Harrison Floyd, not Harrison Ford, Harrison Floyd, Blacks for Trump. He is in the Fulton County Jail right now. Remember, a few months ago, we had attorney Michael D. Harper on. He was the lawyer for LaShawn Thompson, who was the poor man that got eaten alive by bed bugs and killed in that jail. There have been a couple other deaths in that jail recently. It is not a good place. And you've got violent criminals being let go. And you've got Harrison Floyd now, Blacks for Trump, obviously being targeted. He's one of the 19, and he did not post bond, so he is in that jail right now. He got involved, this is another bigger picture, with Ruby Freeman early on. Now, Ruby was the one who was seen with her daughter pulling all these boxes of ballots out and counting them after supposedly everybody was supposed to go home. And Ruby was going to come clean. Then all of a sudden she didn't. And we're finding this, you guys. We are finding this as the case. The first story is always the truth before the mainstream media can put spin on it. We're seeing that a lot of cases with the Jan 6ers as well.
Right,
a lot of these celebrity cops changing their tunes with January 6th, and lives are in the line. That's what's really so sad.
Donna, really quickly, we're running short on time, but give us a preview of what you guys are working on for the show. Of course, give my guy Don a big old hug for me. That's my buddy. But what are you guys working on for the show?
All right, big sexy. I will. Jan 6ers, Jeff McKillop, he had the highest security clearance on January 6th. He was at the protest. He said he saw what he thought was a color revolution because he's done it overseas. He's being targeted, 2.5 years in prison, still no trial, no bond, obviously. Brendy Wells, wife of the great John B. Wells, the truth about South Africa, she's going to tell you what happens in South Africa right now is coming our way. CRT coming home to roost. And Rav Warrior Andy M. You've seen her in the chats. You're going to see her on Cowboy Logic this weekend.
Can't wait to see you guys again. Have a great weekend. Have a great show. We'll talk to you guys soon. Still ahead here on American Sunrise, Elon Musk is yet more troubled, and it's out of this world. Plus, Jennifer Aniston is ready to cancel culture. Find out why. That's a mouthful.
right, time to spill some tea. Of course, that is sponsored by our good friends at Artillery Tea Company, artilleryteaco.com. Use that promo code RAB for 10% off, and eventually we're going to have like a whole video montage of my girl who is
spilling.
Always spilling tea
every day.
Just basically anything, but it's a talent.
I spill a lot of things. Yeah. I don't save that just for tea. Yeah. Artillery tea is all natural. It's whole leaf. Tea bags are chemical free. Each bag can be used twice.
Yes, Artillery Tea Company, and also this is what we love. Family and veteran owned and operated.
Love that.
And again, a portion of your purchase goes to help veteran and first responder charities. So be sure and check them out.
ArtilleryTeaco.com. Promo code RAB10 for 10% off. All right.
Let's bring back David and Terrance for some help with this story. So guys, check this out. The tea on Elon Musk has been flowing heavily in recent months, and we have more of it to spell. So the billionaire SpaceX company was sued by the DOJ yesterday over alleged discrimination in its hiring process.
The DOJ claims SpaceX, quote, broadly excludes refugees and asylum seekers in their recruitment, screening, and selection of new employees. Now, back in June, Musk posted on X, then Twitter, that SpaceX can only hire U.S. citizens and lawful residents due to rockets' classifications as advanced weapons of technology. David, why can't people just walk across the border and demand a job launching rockets at places? I don't understand it, David. What's the big deal with Elon?
Yeah, this is insane. I mean, so here's the thing. I mean, how about just like U.S. citizens? So U.S. citizens want to be hired by SpaceX. Hello, what's the problem? But yet, this is the world we're living in today. Like, where is logic gone? Where is logic gone? Like, in other words, it seems to me like MSNBC would have a great headline about illegal immigrants, not allowed to, be in part of SpaceX. I mean, come on. I mean, this is what we say all the time.
They're following the law.
Right.
I know that it's the law, and maybe that's the issue here. Not maybe, it is the issue, which is things. It's a 180 world, right? What's up is down, down is up. What's good is evil, evil is good. What's right is right, or what is right is wrong is right. I mean, that's the world we're living in, and this is a great example of it.
I'm confused about what you just said there, David.
Out of this world.
I don't even know what I just said. I don't even know.
I'm confused, but Miranda and Gina, it seems to me, and I'd like you guys to sound off. Maybe this is just really basic, but it seems to me that Elon Musk probably wouldn't hire someone that has a history of carjacking to take on his rockets. I mean, these are people who have criminal backgrounds. So why would you entrust someone who breaks the law with a multi-million-dollar rocket or ship? Like, it just doesn't make sense. No.
Well, and why is there discrimination in the Department of Defense? Are they hiring these people to work on our nuclear weapons? I'd like to know the answer to that.
Fair.
I have a lot of questions, guys, but we got to move on. So speaking of leftist agendas, actress Jennifer Aniston has said she has enough. Take a look at this. The Hollywood A-lister told the Wall Street Journal she's, quote, over cancel culture. Earlier this year, Aniston took some backlash over allegedly liking an Instagram post of Jamie Foxx that was called anti-Semitic, a claim which she denies. She simply just said, look, I've had enough. Is there no redemption? I don't put everybody in the Harvey Weinstein basket. Ooh, that's going to sting. Real quickly, guys, fire round. Your reaction, Terrance, go.
No,
do you think other Hollywood actors will follow suit?
If you disagree with what someone says, then just tune them out. Don't cancel them.
And eventually the left will eat its own.
I think she's a friend, and we should just forgive her.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well played, guys.
Dr. Gina.
Like that? Yeah, I think I'm rubbing off on her.
All right, Sunny Side Up is coming up next. Stick around. More American Sunrise coming at you right after this.
to American Sunrise. This show always flies by. We had a lot of ground to cover, and we did it.
Yes, we did. All right, it is time for Sunny Side Up. Let's end the week this week with something you just don't see every day. An extremely rare spotless giraffe was born 3 weeks ago at Bright's Zoo in Tennessee, and now you can help name her. The zoo started a contest on its Facebook to name what it believes to be the only spotless giraffe in the world.
Oh, there are 4 names to choose from right now, and each one highlights how unique this baby is. So the contest ends September 4th, so go ahead and cast your vote now. Take a look.
Bright's Zoo in Limestone, Tennessee has welcomed, and you got to see this, a rare spotless giraffe. Officials say she's the only known spotless giraffe on the planet. The last giraffe of this kind, born in 1972 at a Tokyo Zoo. Caretakers say the female calf is thriving at 6 feet tall. The zoo will collect votes for names on the Facebook page today through Labor Day.
I have a name. I have the perfect name for her.
What is it?
Half calf. It's layered, right? She's a calf.
Yes.
She's kind of the color of coffee.
Okay.
But she's only got half the decorations.
Yes.
Okay, I was thinking like rafty, maybe. You know, giraffe, like rare, rafty. I don't know.
Oh, cute. I like that too.
Throwing it out there. All right, we're going to see your beautiful faces back here at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, and we're also going to see you Monday. We will have one of Trump's attorneys joining us. We'll expose the teachers' unions, of course, their leftist agenda, sending money to Democrats, leftist politicians, and causes, and then what we can do about it. And again, share your reaction to what's going on. I hope today, and I loved your interview with Father Pavone.
Well, thank
I hope
you.
It,
Thank you.
lifted everyone's spirits.
He's such a great man, such a great man. I have to ask, guys, big plans for the weekend, super quick?
Oh, super quick. I can tell you right now, I'm going to the Renaissance Festival. I'm not dressing up. Don't worry, I'm not dressing up. There will be no video or pictures of that.
Eat a turkey leg for me, my friend. Enjoy.
Darn it.
Yes, sir. Do it.
And next week, I want you to bring your dogs and cats on the show on Friday, because I think we should just make it a tradition. All right, everybody, have a great
real zoo
weekend. You're going to have to bring your cat, so that's going to be a challenge. Anyway, we'll see you back here on Monday.
Have a great weekend, and remember, War Room is next with Steve Bannon, so stay tuned. And again, we'll see you back here at 4 o'clock Eastern. Have a great weekend, everyone.
See you, everybody.
This is the primal scream of a dying regime. Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. You're just not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Just what a vile, racist, anti-democracy buffoon he was. This is the buffooning of the American presidency. This should not be happening. So as a teenager living in New York, I've said it before, this is the reason I never watched The Apprentice. I despised Donald Trump because he, to me, signified the rich white guy in Manhattan that absolutely hated and despised me, that hated and despised my cousins, my friends, everyone we knew, that called us wilding just because we were in the park, that said we can't be free to walk around in the street, that said when Patrick Dorismond got killed by an off-duty police officer, he's no choir boy. And he was literal. I mean,